All right, so welcome everybody to probably what's going to be another episode of the Passion for Sound podcast. This might go on YouTube as well. We'll see how we go. I've got Geno and Sherri from Geshelli Labs joining me. I don't know if this is the second or third time you guys have joined me on the
Don't even
show.
know.
No, I think it's number two, is it? Yeah?
I think
Yeah, I think so. It feels
years.
like we've chatted more, but there's emails and who knows. So, we just started chatting offline because I was saying to Geno and Sherri that I was conscious that I didn't rave about the J2 AK4499 version. Um, and whilst I think it's great and I think it's at the same performance level as the best other DACs at its price point, we were talking about the fact that I'd sort of come in wondering if it was going to be this giant killer because of some of the hype that had been around it. And so we'd started talking, and I've just paused Geno and Sherri and said, "Hey, can we record this? It sounds like it's really good information." So let's backtrack. Do you want to tell me the kind of the history, Geno, that you were starting to talk about from the AKM Fire and onwards, and the evolution of the J2 with that?
Yeah. So I'll say this, so back, I think when we did our interview way back then, we might even have been at the AK4490 back then. Yeah.
I think you might have been,
So
yeah.
we were always, just, it just like I think the planets align and we were just always doing AKMs. Like we loved AKM chips. So, the fire hits and we go into absolute panic mode. I'm sure lots of manufacturers went into panic mode. Um, and we had our remaining chips that we could, make our remaining J2s. We actually had just made the J2 at the time, right?
Yeah, the J,
or no, it was the JNOG.
The JNOG had
Yes.
just come out the previous couple weeks,
Right.
and we're small and doing everything ourselves. We'll buy maybe 100 chips at a time if we're lucky.
Back then, yeah. Back then, I would say, but
this
yeah.
was not. This was bad.
Yeah, back then, yeah, we were buying small amounts, and even then it wasn't super easy to just get them like off the shelf in big amounts. So yeah, we were always buying, like as you said, 100, 200 at a time. And so we didn't like have a ton in stock to begin with, because we always just figured, hey, we can get them, get more from a supplier. We don't have to front a ton of money for these chips, blah, blah, blah. So that happens. I get a phone call from the local rep, and he's like, and I'm like, get out of here, dude. He's like, yeah, he's like, it caught on fire. I'm like, no way. He's like, yeah, man, it caught on fire. He's like, I like completely, I was like, oh my goodness. And it was like 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I think you woke me up.
Yeah, so what we ended up doing, we had to immediately like come to work, panic, and we're like, okay, we didn't really have an ESS design in our back pocket. So I'm like, crap, we got to go to ESS. And it's not that we never wanted to. I mean, it was just like we just always did AKMs. It was just like, again, at the time especially, we were really small. And, it wasn't like we had this big R&D team to be able to, like, oh, you go do ESS, I'll do AKM. So immediately we started with the ESS. And then like I said, the prices had just like skyrocketed. Like, I mean, they knew, it was just like, boom, ESS is it. Prices are going to be through the roof. The pros were, I can't even remember. They were so expensive. So we're like, all right, we need to find a comparable chip to the 93.
490? 93?
4493, yeah. So we had to find a comparable chip, and that's where we went with the 9026. We kind of liked it. It was a little older. It might have been around the same age as the 93, but the 93 was probably in middle aged at that point. So
and they weren't easy to get. There was only you had to
go through. Dude, it was hard. Like, yeah, there was like one like place to get them.
This is the 9026.
Yes, the 9026 Pro. That ESS.
Found the rep's home cell phone, the cell phone number, and I
like called him.
Number.
Yes.
That was like
it's like in his car driving.
Yeah, it was really bizarre.
So we ended up buying a ton of those. Like, we just were like, we got to break the bank and get a ton, because I'm sure everybody's going to start buying ESS chips and they're going to be out of stock, which kind of happened. So we got together a design. It took us a couple months to get it right, because it was a very different like design. It was like going from like completely like apples to oranges. Completely different design all around. And you get comfortable with AKM, like their data sheets, like talking, you just get like very comfortable. And now it's like, oh my goodness, we have to like do something different. And it's like very different.
Yeah, I've heard it's
You
like
know,
going from, say, being a petrol mechanic to a diesel mechanic. Yet they're
yeah,
both
yeah.
engines, but they're like totally different
You're
operations.
very good
With
analogy.
nobody to train you on what to do. I mean, he was
Yes.
by
Yeah,
himself on this.
And
yeah,
I'm
good
sure the
point.
other manufacturers, I remember even talking to other people at the time, like there was like zero like help. Like you just, or
Mm,
we were just like, all of us were just like kind of like, okay, let's figure this out. So we actually, I'm not going to name names, we talked to a couple other manufacturers, or at least one other manufacturer during that process, and was like, are you guys seeing the same problem we are? Are you seeing this bug on the chip that we are? You know, and it was like, yeah, we're seeing it too, and let's share some information. So
yeah, right.
so you know, we found a couple of weird bugs and things, and we finally got it done. We got it out, and then I think, yeah, you got one. Like everybody ended up getting them, um, and it was funny because it was like such a radical difference for us. Like just everything about the DAC measurements, like everything about it was a
Mm,
radical difference. So now we're having to like really get behind this DAC and understand it. You know, so again, for years we're AKM, we know everything about them. We could give you like every nuance, talk about everything. Now we're like, oh crap, we have to like, you know, listen to this thing for a zillion hours, like try to get, you know, feedback. So it actually worked out really well. It came out to be a really cool product. And then we switched over to the 9038 Q2M. It's a mobile version. So when you see the 38 Pro versus the Q2M, um, just the Q2M is a 2-channel DAC, and it's really teeny tiny. It's like something that you would almost put in a cell phone like size, very
yeah,
low
right.
power, but very good measurements, very good sounding DAC. We actually sold a lot of them. They weren't super easy to manufacture. They were a pain because they were like leadless chips and blah blah blah. So that side was definitely a pain.
Okay.
And then so we kept following AKM, and we honestly didn't think they were going to come back. Like we
Mm,
figured, okay, they're done. This is it. And they eventually like it was like we were hearing rumblings from our vendor. I mean, not our vendors, our distributors or distributor down here, and he's like, I think they're coming back. I think, you know, he was kind of give us stages of like, okay, they're doing this now. I still didn't believe it.
yep.
And then he's like, dude, he's like, make your order. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, here's a link, place your order, let's go. We place our order months before, and like we ordered a ton of them. And we're just like, okay, we don't know what's going on. And then one day, like FedEx is knocking on the door, trays of AKMs, and we're like,
Okay.
sweet, dude. So I think at the end of the day, like we were saying, like when we released that back again, there was at least amongst our people, I'm not going to say like in the whole audio community, but amongst our people, there was just like this huge, like, yeah, you know, we can finally continue with the J2, or at least, you know, it was the JNOG, then we went to J2. We can finally continue our AKM release. And, you know, it brought us back to when the fire, right before the fire
Yeah,
happened.
that's it.
So I would definitely say, based on a lot of like when we talk about the hype, I think a lot of our energy bled off too. I think just us like going crazy. It was like the greatest thing, you know. Oh my God, they're back, you know.
Well, and it
I
Mm,
also it
yeah,
allowed us at that point prior to the fire, people would write in and ask us about the sabers, and we just no, we don't have them. No, we don't have them.
yeah. We
yeah.
just kind of blew it off.
Right,
Yeah.
and it was great because now the AKM fans could get the AKM, and the
Yes.
Saber fans could get the Saber. So it
Yeah.
actually worked out in a weird kind of cosmic way
Yeah.
because now we have both sides that we can
Right.
offer.
Yep. And
And
that was a question I was going to ask you. Are you planning on continuing both ongoing
yeah,
forever or not sure? Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. I mean, I have, yeah. Now, I mean, we have some really nice AKM designs and ESS designs. And yeah, we have no, you know, we're going to continue it as long as the chips are available. Like, there's
Mhm.
no, you know, we're not going to lose anything. I mean, like so our model here, like since we produce all of our own board, like we pick and place all of our own boards. The PC boards we get outside, but all of our assemblies done here. So we're putting the chips
Okay.
on the PC boards. You know, we
Yep.
have 3 pick and place lines now. So the fact that we can do that means we don't lose anything by not doing so. So effectively, you know, if somebody says, hey, I want this board, like it's already programmed in the machine, we have all the parts, we can just throw it through the machine and make you the board. It's not
Okay.
gonna, You know what I mean? There's no reason for us to not do it unless we run out of boards, and then maybe we're like, okay, we don't want to order 500 more or whatever. You know what I mean? But
But we still sell.
yeah,
I
we
mean,
still sell ESSs all the time.
I happen to like the 9026.
She loves it.
I really do.
Yep.
It's to me, it's a little more instrument forward, which is what that's kind of my thing. I kind of dig that. So you know, it has each chip has a different nuance, which is nice to be able to, depending on your listening.
Yeah, I
style.
agree. I definitely agree. And it was interesting actually, as we've been talking, I've been kind of processing a bit what I like about the AK4493 version. And I had previously always tended to be like you, Sherry, where I always tended to favor the ESS chips for whatever reason. It's not that I think a chip is necessarily better, but in each good DAC that I'd tried, a good DAC using an ESS and a good DAC using AKM, I'd often found I leant back towards the ESS.
Yeah.
The J2 with the AK4493 is the first time I'm like, nah, I'm all about the 4493. If you put both the J2, and I actually don't know if the J2 I've got here is the 9038Q2M or the 9026. I'd have to double check that.
So you can tell if you look inside and you see a heat sink in the center, you see a big heat sink, then that's a 9026.
I think you have the 9026.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Unless he has an older version that didn't have a heat sink. I don't know.
It's not got a heat sink, but I reckon it would be the 9026 because it's going back.
Okay.
And it doesn't say on here anything.
So you may have a really, at one
this
point
was pretty early.
Yeah, you might have like a real early before we used the heat sinks on them. The heat sinks just kind of dissipated. They ran kind of hot. They're 8 DACs, like it's essentially 4 on the left channel, 4 on the right channel. So they ran a little hot. So we like within like the first month. So you probably have a real early version. We switched over to putting little heat sinks on it. But yeah, you'll see the 90. Gosh, so many numbers. The 9026 is a bigger chip and it's in the center too. It's a bigger. You'll see a big square in the center. He probably has a real old one.
Yeah, he might have. Well,
yeah, you'd have to probably. You maybe
no, there is a heat sink. I can see the heat sink now.
Okay, yeah, then that's the 20.
It's hidden behind a capacitor. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Q2M, at least to me, is a little more vocal forward. You would know it.
Yep.
Everybody that has a Q2M says it sounds like the singer standing right in front of their face.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Well,
whereas I find the AK4493 has a slightly fuller sense in the bass. The bass has got a really nice quality to it that I love. Yeah.
Yeah.
People always say that. Yeah, it's true. And it's funny when you measure it. If you measure the 4493, you'll see like a little bump and
really?
I mean the bass frequency. Yeah, you'll see it. Like if you if you zoom in, you'll see that little bump. You know, we always laugh, bump. But yeah,
it's funny how just that little tiny bit's enough.
Yeah, things that probably. But yeah, you're a lot of people say that to us too. Same thing. Yep. You know, it's got it like that like grunt to it. So.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So yeah, so that was my quick. I just wanted to quickly recap what my thoughts were around it and make sure that was all clear. Yeah. But I think that probably leads us into talking a little bit about the new 4499EX. And what we were also starting to talk about offline was the fact that there's all this confusion because there was the old 4499 and now there's the 4499EX version.
Yes.
Because some people commented on my channel and I hadn't clarified. I hadn't gone back to look at all the different numberings because, like you said before, they kind of all roll together. But someone posted and said, "Oh, the D90 SE from Topping's been using the 4499 for ages," and I thought, no, this isn't right because I'd gone and done some research on the new 4499, and it's that EX tag at the end that's the differentiator, I believe. Yes. So tell me what's going on. I know it's 2 chips. You've got the 4499EX and the 4191 that goes with it. I think it was. What's being done there that's different to a traditional single chip design, Geno?
So Sherry's dipping for a second. She's gonna go grab something to drink, I think. So so I'll like take the center frame. Okay. So your question was, sorry, I was like half trying to. Okay, so the difference you're saying the difference in the 99 older one and 99EX, and I apologize.
And specifically what's going on. No, all good. Yeah. Specifically, what I'm curious about is what's going on with the dual design. How is that? And actually, let me backtrack.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for me was that the moment I listened to the 4499EX version of the J2, the sense of space and layering and depth is like no other Delta Sigma DAC chip I've ever heard. We were saying before how for me there's an element of all Delta Sigma DAC chips having this very incremental difference. You know, it might be a little tiny bit more bass or a little bit more
Right.
attack at the top end, but they're all pretty much the same
Right.
until
Right.
the 4499EX has come along. So what's going on in that dual chip
Okay.
design? What's different about it, and how is
So
that relating to the depth and layering?
so it's okay. So I'll answer the technical side first.
Yeah.
So depth and layering portion, that's going to be that's going to be a like a derived answer, I think. But let's start with so the technical side.
Technically, yeah.
So if we go back, I'm going to take a step back to the older 4499. So we actually had a design that was ready to go in the 4499 back then, and the
Mm-hmm.
fire happened. So like I mean we were like ready. I actually still have the chips here that we were going to start production.
Mm,
I was mad because those were expensive back then. But
I'll bet.
yeah, so it was a completely I'm not AKM, so I don't know internally the big differences, but it was a completely different type of chip. So like
Yep.
the physical characteristics of the chip were very different. So they had everything in one. So all your like, digital side, everything was in one big thing, like one big monster. How the DAC chips typically are. So like the 4493 is just one monster. So
Mm.
we go to the newer 4499, which just came out. So what they do is they have a I call it the mod chip. I don't remember exactly what they call it. But the one chip, and I always mess up the numbers. 4191, 4119.
I
I
think it's
always call it
4191.
thank you. I every single day of my life I screw those numbers up for that
I can
chip.
imagine. So many numbers.
There's too many numbers. So that chip effectively handles your bit stream coming in. So say from USB, from SPDIF, whatever. It's going to take your I2S stream. That guy's going to multi-bit. It's like a 7-bit multi-bit signal that's going to go into the DAC chip. So there's some digital on the DAC chip, but it's mostly an analog monster. So it's like they took all the messy stuff out of the DAC chip, and it feels like they made the DAC chip this like really pure kind of analog-y thing. Okay,
Okay.
so they're no longer like really tied together. That's number one. It's the best way
Mm-hmm.
I can explain it without like citing like data sheet crap, which is just boring. But
And it's going to go for me
no,
too.
it's fine. It's like so just imagine like these two chips. One is speaking one language and the other speaking another language, and you're taking this language in and you're translating it to a different language to talk to the DAC chip. So
Okay.
the one chip is just like a pure digital, decoding audio signals, converting them to multi-bit. Then the other guy is accepting multi-bit, converting it to analog.
Okay.
Now,
Okay. Yep.
and again, I'm not AKM, so I can speak for what I've seen and what I've experienced with it. But again, they would be the ones that would like know the ins and outs. Like, well, this is really
Mm.
Geno's an idiot. So, um, but but the DAC side, some of the advantages that I've seen with the two is that the DAC chip, you can really separate it out into an analog world. So, you can
Okay.
kind of do your grounds and everything different. It's like they cut the chips in half, and now you can really focus on the analog side, focus on the digital side. And on the analog side, you also can separate like your power supplies and everything. Like you can really it's giving you like these two separate worlds that you can now set up power supplies, references, everything to two separate
Okay.
monsters. And you can really
Yeah.
keep that digital on this side. It does at least my take on it. So the analog side, so the 99. So we call this DAC a 4499 DAC, but it's actually a 41. What it goes to 4191?
4191. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually both those chips working together, but we
Yep.
just refer to it as the 4493 or 4499. I can't. Too many numbers.
It's a long day.
You know the
It's a long
DAC.
day.
I totally.
So I call it the mod side and the DAC side. That's how on all the
Okay.
code it's written as the mod side and the DAC side. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
the DAC side, The DAC side is a current-based DAC, which is also different than the 4493, which is a voltage output. So with a
Okay.
current-based DAC, you have to have external op amps that are doing a current conversion. So this is where your Sparkoses and your Bursins and your
Mm-hmm.
Appas, your TI comes into play. So
Yep.
who's going to do that conversion the best? So that's where the whole op amp war comes from. So now in the
Yeah, right.
44, so in the 93, the op amps more act as buffers, but in
Okay.
the 99, they're doing current conversion with a buffer.
Okay.
So it's kind of like they're doing like both, and that's where like there's a whole different world going to play. Now, people argue so the current is also being converted through a resistor and some other things. So that's like another thing, but the DAC chips are doing some work. I mean, excuse me, the op amps are doing some work there too. They have to now start
That makes a
syncing
lot of
wattages.
sense.
Oh, go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
because one of the things I mentioned in the, no, that's all right. One of the things I mentioned in the review was that I felt like swapping the op amps in the 4493, it made an incremental step forward in sound quality compared to so going to the Sparkos from the OPA chips from
Right.
are they Texas Instruments, are they that make
Yeah. Okay.
those?
Texas Instruments.
Yeah.
They're like Burr Brown, TI Burr Brown
Yeah.
chips.
So that was what I'd call an incremental step. It was an improvement, but a small one. Whereas I
Right.
felt like the differences in the AK4499, I
Right.
wouldn't want that without the Sparkos. It's a really
Right.
that combination is just spot on for
Yeah.
me.
So
Yeah.
those chips are like there's a lot more going on with current and a lot of magic going on there. I'm not like a pure op amp guy, so I like you would have to get Sparkos on for one of those interviews, and he can talk op amps. Like me and him, when we met up at last year at Florida, like we talked till 3. Like Sherry was so mad because we wouldn't stop. Like
In the hotel room during the audio show where we have to be up in 4 hours, they are still at 3 in the morning,
yeah,
screaming, hugging, yelling,
yeah.
low stuff. I don't know. They hit it
But
off.
he's like an analog like guru. So like
Hmm.
anything you ever want to talk to about analog, this guy knows like every answer.
Yep.
So he can definitely give you your answers on op amps. Like, if you were
Yeah.
like, man, I need to know why, and he will give them to you. Me, that's like being that's the difference being like an orthopedic surgeon or
Or a GP or a, yeah.
no,
Yeah.
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 Why can't I think like eye surgeon? So yeah, it's just a different discipline, and he's
Yeah.
the master.
Okay.
So in those op amps, another thing that people aren't going to say, so they create different kinds of distortion.
Hmm.
So it's like tubes in a way, and I'm sure I always say like everything I'm saying, people are just like either going to cringe or oh yeah, So it's like the with these op amps, like when you measure them, and I'll just go to measurements, when you measure them, different op amp combinations and things create different distortions. So sometimes you'll get op amps, say, from one manufacturer, and they have a much higher THD or a much higher distortion, but
Hmm.
90% of the people love the sound.
Yep.
And so it's like I can't argue with that. You know what I mean? Like if the numbers say one thing, but I'm not going to argue with you if you're buying them and you like
Well,
them.
it's like tubes.
Yes,
Tubes don't
Yeah,
measure well.
exactly like tubes, isn't it?
right,
Yeah.
Right.
So our thing, we said this even back on the old thing we did with you. It's like it's all up to you guys. It's like what you like. Like I'm not going to tell you because a machine says this, like it's better. It's going to be well if everybody wants them
What are
and
your
they
ears
like,
like?
then they like them.
Yeah.
Um, so again with those op amps, no joke. I mean, they all measure differently. Some of them noisier, or not. I don't want to say noisier, but maybe more distortion than the other ones.
Hmm.
Um, some of them are just insanely clean. Um, but at the end of the day, I mean, what at what level are we hearing these things and all that kind of stuff? That's always that big argument. But um, people, I think at the end of the day, people like what they like. So
Yep.
back to those op amp stage on those current based DACs, they have to sync more current or source more current things, and it'll have an effect on things, and that's kind of the difference. So as I noticed, the ESSs are also current based.
I remember.
We
I think we talked about that in the original interview. You
Yes,
mentioned that.
yes.
Yeah.
So those are current base too, but we weren't doing sockets then, so we never really
Mm-hmm.
got into changing op amps. At that time when we were doing those, we just stuck with the op amps we had because during the ESS days, especially during that time, it was impossible to get anything. So we were just
Yeah.
getting as many OPA 6056s as humanly possible, and just we're
Yep.
like at that time we're like, hey man, people would ask us, can you put these on? We're like, we can't get them, you know, we're just gonna stick with that.
Yep.
But yeah, so you know what's cool? I wanted to say this too, just because we're on the phone. Is that like what I really like and really appreciate is that you guys are like playing with the op amps and like we're all about like that customization and like people like doing like I don't hate cable people. I don't hate any of it. Like I love the fact that people are just doing their thing, and we want to give you guys that platform to be
Mm-hmm.
able to do that. That's like one of our big things, especially nowadays, is like we want to give you a platform to be able to do that and then argue amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
Like and it's cool. No, seriously, it's awesome. So again, if you like the 99, you like it over say the 9026 or the 90, 93, too many things, but you may like this one, so that's your platform. You like it
That's
with
it.
those op amps, that's your platform.
Yep.
And we love that we can like help give you guys that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like a big thing. That's why we always
That
have all the
actually
kids
leads me.
like them. Go ahead, go ahead. Sorry, I'm yapping.
No, I was going to say that leads to another question I wanted to ask, which is the shift to having a socketed model. Was that driven by initially the fact that you wanted people to tweak, or is it a nice side effect? Is it something that you did because you wanted to put the Sparkos op amps in, and then to most easily manufacture that you ended up with a socket? How did the move to the socket actually come about?
Very, very customer driven.
Yes.
Okay.
So there was a person, he's not a YouTuber, at least he wasn't at the time, who got a J2, made a dongle, got Sparkos, put the two together, and showed everybody on YouTube and said, check this out.
Yeah.
After that, Geshelli and Sparkos were inundated with people who wanted to do that too, but didn't have maybe the capabilities that this YouTuber had to make the dongle. And it got to
Yeah.
the point where I believe Sparkos called us and said, my head's going to explode. We
Yeah.
have to come up with
Right.
something together.
So yeah, we were like, so even back to the days when we did our first interview and things like that. So we always had people that would want different op amps. They would ask us, like,
Yep.
hey, can we put these on? Can we put those on? And we would like sometimes we would actually buy the SOIC to dip adapter from Sparkos all the time. We would just
Okay.
order them from him. He has like this perfect adapter. So we would do that and solder them like a little socket, and then it kind of like worked, and sometimes they would break and things, and it was a pain. But yeah, the one guy, he was just like, hey, can you do this? And so he ended up like, it was just like a weird, like he ended up like linking us up with Sparkos. And at that time, again, yeah, Sparkos was getting a bunch of people asking him, and it just was like this weird like thing that everybody was just like, you should do this, like everybody at like one time. And then so I was like, okay, I'll add sockets, like I don't have 80 million other things to do, so I'll add sockets. And then so it kind of was just like a bunch of people, and then it just was like, yes, we'll do it. We did it. And then it was like one of these things where it was just like, oh man, we should have did this a long time ago.
Mhm.
So it just
Yeah.
organically kind of happened in a way, and then we're like, oh man, it's really cool because people are like doing tons of op amp swappings, which I never thought people would really care. Like I didn't
Yep.
think, like if she would have said, is Lachlan gonna care, I'd say no. And meanwhile, like
Right. Okay.
doing it, like so I'm like, holy crap, like Lachlan's doing this. So it just wasn't a thing, like I
It
guess.
evolved into a
Yeah.
thing, I think, with the combination
Yeah.
of the two.
So I'm very engineering minded too. So for me, it's just like, you're listening to all kinds of stuff. I see all the headphones behind you. For me, it's not like that. For me, it's just like
Yep.
math and papers, and you know. So for me, it's like I wouldn't think that you would care. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh,
Yeah,
he
gotcha.
does,
Because
and he's
it's not
actually
in your
no, no, no.
viewpoint.
Yeah, I don't. So I think that's the long-winded answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So
I think that
it
brings up a good
it's
point. Yeah,
happily
sorry, you
evolved.
go, Sherry.
I'm sorry. What did you
Yeah,
say?
so you go. What were you going to say, Sherry?
Oh, I said it's just one of those things that we just happily evolved into something that's turned into some. It's kind of cool. People
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
And I think something that came up before, we were talking about the preferences for the different DAC chips, and I think similar to that, the preferences for different op amps,
Mhm.
because I think so often it also depends. You know, you mentioned the headphones behind me made me think of this. Often it depends on the gear you're listening to.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
a 9026 with a set of um you know, the old OPA 627s, which were quite a nice, warm, rich sounding op amp that I personally love as an op amp. Those would be great with certain systems, but then on another system, you're going to want a different set
Mhm.
of op amps with a different DAC chip potentially. So I
Yeah.
think it's great having that tweakability and letting people find their way.
Yeah, it's awesome. You
The
guys do
question,
that.
you're probably going to hate me for asking this because others might follow
Yeah.
up on it. There's been a few people that posted on the J2 socketed review,
Mhm.
and they've said to me, "Have you tried it with I think it's the 2590s, the Pro chips from Sparkos, the bigger
Yeah.
ones, which is
Yeah.
what you use in the A3 Pro." Um, the challenge with that is you can't actually fit them in the current
Yes.
sockets as they are. You can't fit them. Is there
Y-
any chance of providing an adapter kit or something? I don't know if it's got to be really
I'll
custom or if
give you
it's
the official. I'm glad I have a platform to talk about those.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, let's do it.
awesome, awesome, awesome chips. So you see, we use them in the A3. So you know, we
Mm,
solder them down. So I was just talking to Sparkos about this the other day. So so there's no easy way to directly socket those, number one. So they're
okay.
like a different format. And I'm gonna quote Sparkos, and I hope I do. So Andrew, if I screw this up, sorry. He originally designed those for like pro audio mixing boards and things, and those are a certain format. And you know, like I
Hmm.
said, you should try to get him on and talk to him one day. He's an awesome dude. But
I should. Yeah, I was just thinking
it,
before. I've never done that, and I should.
super cool dude.
Yeah.
So and he made. I hope I'm not screwing this up, but he designed those for one format, and they kind of took off in a different direction because everybody loves them.
Yep.
So on the board itself, like the way we have to socket him right now. If we went to sockets on the A3 for that chip, we'd have to use these like special pins, which are a complete pain in the butt to manufacture.
Okay.
So it would be amazing if there was like an actual socket for it. So I've been talking to him about that. Like, hey man, you know, maybe we'll come up with a socket like that will be specifically for those, so you can pull them out, and maybe that can evolve into something else. Maybe you know different op
Okay.
amps. But he does have a socket where it will fit in the Dip 8, which I remember him
Okay.
saying he had to make it because everybody like demanded it. That you know because they wanted to use it. Now on our board, if you take a look at the A3, you'll see how gigantic they are in there, and it took up like
Yeah.
maybe 20% of that board.
Yeah.
So to keep
And
it,
just for anyone, if this does go out as a video, I'll just quickly show people. Sorry about the
oh
noise.
yes,
This is the standard. So that's
oh
the
that's a small one, yeah.
standard Sparkos. The footprint of I won't use the brand side of this. The footprint of the Pro is more like that. So we're talking teeny tiny versus massive.
Yes. Um, we had a couple customers who were able to fit them in where the RCAs are. So you know, so this is for I'm sorry, this is for the 93, the AK93,
Mhm.
the J2S 93 version. You can
Yep.
kind of wedge them in. A guy, Neil Blanchard, speaker designer, he was messing
Yeah, I
with
know
it.
you
He
will.
was
Yep.
able to, yeah, so he was able to do it. And he was kind of telling me because I was like, "Oh, you figured it out." I'm like, "Can you tell me how you did it?" So we didn't consciously think about those big ones because at the time nobody like it wasn't like a thing. You know what I mean? It's like it
It
became a
wasn't
thing.
our. It
It
wasn't a
wasn't
thing in
our
our
thing. Yeah, yeah,
radar.
yes, exactly. Yeah, that's correct.
Mm,
Um, so we considered those what they were designed for. We didn't really consider those for putting them on the DAC. We were like, you know, well, because we talked to Sparkus and he's like, the 3602s are awesome. And he was, they're awesome. We'll fit them in there. Cool. And we knew they were compact now. So for the XLR side, it was impossible to get them in. We just cannot fit them. We couldn't move the sockets back because we would run into the, hit the DAC chip. It was a mess. Those XLRs are humongous, so you can physically look at the board and put that chip down on there, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Or put the op amp, near it. So for the 99, this is another long-winded answer, but here's the answer.
No, it's good.
So for the 99, I consciously made sure that for the RCA it will fit. So you have to get the DIP 8 adapter that Sparkos sells, and you can fit it there. If somebody tries it and it doesn't, I made a mistake and whatever. But no, it should fit there. I measured it out and it should fit fine.
Okay.
It should be no problem. I tested it on ours and it fits fine. So again, if Sparkos changed the board or something, I can't, Now, where you see the other two sockets, those are doing the straight current conversion. So we could not by any means fit those two giants. I tried very hard to fit those two giants in there at all costs, and I couldn't. So it's not to say that in the future of Geshelli 2024, we don't roll out something that will fit those. Maybe a different form factor. We have some plans for new things, and we can talk about that later. But in the current design, we're especially the 99, we had to pack a lot more passives, a lot more circuitry in there for a bunch of other crap, just for other things with the chip. Plus, remember, it's 2 chips that takes up a lot of space. So we, the best we could do with that was fit those, 2 in there. And I really tried to separate them too. So that way, let's say, I don't know all of Burson's options, but let's say that they got bigger ones, or there's some other brands people ask me about.
The SIL, which I don't think I've played with. A lot of people have said is one to check out, but I don't know them well, so I don't know their dimensions or size.
Yeah, it's a lot of the designs of stuff that people use these replaceable guys in, they're huge, big, AV receiver size things, and they got a ton of space. I've seen some Burson ones that are real tall.
Of the V6 range, which are the kind of the Sparkos and the Burson V6 range, are about kind of on par performance-wise. They're quite different sounds, but similar. But the V6 is just that little bit too tall to fit in either the aluminum or the wooden case, unfortunately. So I think you can get it if you're prepared to have a fly lead or an angled adapter dongle, but that's a step beyond what I'm comfortable doing.
Right. So yeah, they, but we try to give as much space as possible for those to 2 current conversion op amps. So we really did. But again, we were very conscious about, the pros and giving more space in the future. So, future designs that we start doing, we were very aware of being able to fit the pros, So for now, we wanted to keep everything the same modular design. Somebody had wrote that in your thing, so to keep that design the same, to fit in all the cases and be able to pull them and move them, we had to sacrifice that. So.
Because we make the wood cases ourselves, are you saying that the Bursons it needs a little more height on the wood?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember how close it was. I mean, I think technically, just looking at it, I think technically, if you were to have a channel carved, so how there's the piece of timber that's kind of proud of the perspex, and then you've got the bit that sits behind the perspex that it kind of bumps up against. If you were to carve the height of the, it's hard to explain this, the bit that sits behind the perspex, if you were to carve a channel in there, where the op amps slide in, you'd probably fit it in, but I haven't measured it. I can check that for you and let you know if you want me to.
5 more millimeters or something, or 5
something like that.
Okay,
that's it. That's height. It's all about the height.
There is something if somebody, something that we would do for somebody if they were we have to have those in there, and we'd have to do it with a wood case, but they can order a wood case and just specify the height, or maybe
Oh,
send us the
cool.
op amps. Oh yeah, we've done things like that for people, not specifically for op amps, but to fit in other things, whatever they're doing. They're like, hey, can we specify a taller height for whatever reason? Um,
Yeah, okay.
it's kind of how we ended up coming up with the height for the A3 that's by your elbow. Like, so that's how we ended up creating that height. Was a customer needed something a certain height, and then we
Okay.
like made it, and we're like, we kind of like the look, and then we're like, man, we could squeeze these buttons in here like that. So if somebody said to us like, hey, I want to use those taller Bursons, can you give me like X amount of height? Or it'd be easier if they probably sent them to us or told us where to get them, and then we
Hmm.
can custom the height for them, no problem. We're
Okay.
just it's making the sides a little taller. I mean, it's not a big
Yeah.
deal.
Okay. That's really cool to
So
know. There'll be some people out there knocking on your door any minute now, I reckon. So
yeah, no, it's not a big
Yeah,
deal.
we don't know unless somebody brings it up.
Yes,
So,
yes,
I'm
that's it.
glad you brought it up because that wasn't
yes,
something that we would have thought of.
yeah.
Yeah.
Most
And
of
they're
the
all,
stuff
I
is
mean, they're all different shapes and sizes, so it's so hard to know. Like I can't remember the
Mhm.
brand name and I feel really bad because they're a lovely op amp, but there's another staccato, the staccato op
Yeah,
amps.
yeah.
Um, and they're a really unique design, but they're quite kind of, they've got broad shoulders is kind of how I describe them. And so
Right,
if you've got sockets close together, it can get really difficult. But it's just
right,
another example of yet another different configuration you'd need to make it all
right.
fit. So it's hard, very hard.
We have to get with all the
Um,
op amp makers and like standardize
exactly,
like
exactly,
just
yeah. No bigger than this footprint, this height, yeah.
let's all agree, and then
Um,
we can make you the thing. Good.
exactly, full swappability. I'm conscious of time because I know it's the end of your day and you're probably wrecked from working hard. Um, let's segue into, you sort of alluded to before that you've got some plans. Is there anything that you can share now for
Yeah.
people to kind of start getting excited about? Because, and I want to preface this for anyone that hasn't seen my reviews of the A3 Pro and the J2, particularly in my opinion, the 4499 version. I think these are two of the most exciting products I've had across my desk in a long time because they, at the price they're set at, the performance is just nuts. And the ability to have a stack like this on your desk that, like, what are we talking about here? If we talk about the fully spec 4499 and the A3 Pro, we're still under 2,000 US dollars, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
clearly well and truly under 4,000, 2,000 US dollars, and it's right up there with anything I think in that sort of $2,000 to $3,000 range. So I love it, absolutely love it.
Thank you.
So with that in mind, I'm also excited to hear what might be coming.
Yeah.
Anything that we can talk about?
Yeah. So the one thing we're gonna give the J2 underneath a facelift. I mean, this is kind of a natural progression that everybody kind of assumed was going to happen. We're going to give it a facelift to match the A3's design. Um,
Nice.
yeah. So we're talking. So it's in the works right now. We didn't finalize it, but I have no problem openly talking about this. It's most likely gonna. So for everybody who's gonna cheer, we are gonna get rid of those damn four lights. Okay, everybody, we're getting rid of those lights. I promise you.
Just when I got used to what they mean.
I've been telling every customer on the phone, like, we will be getting rid of those lights. I'm so sorry. It evolved into a terrible light situation. We knew that. It evolved. Like, we used to only have
Yeah,
two lights on the DAC. Soon as we started adding inputs, it got crazy.
of
So,
course.
most likely what we think we're going to do is have individual buttons for the input, something like that, making it more clean.
User friendly.
Yeah, user friendly. We kind of dig, for us, the front of that look was always like a B2 bomber
Hmm.
type of thing, like an old school bomber kind of feel with the silver buttons on it, that old
Yep, yep,
airplane.
yeah.
So we're gonna kind of continue that theme with that one by your elbow, the J2. And
Later in 24.
yeah, probably not even. Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
try to get it. Yeah, it'll be a little bit of time. And then we're also gonna go to we just got our sample cases in the higher aluminum, just because people were like demanding the A3 in aluminum.
So
So
this sized amp, this
in
sized casing, but in the aluminium.
in our
Yeah,
aluminum, yeah, with the
yeah.
same kind of glass look, but it'll have the buttons on it, but it'll be at a
Nice.
taller, aluminum case. So that's definitely happening.
See
But
that?
The Zuffa, thank you. So the big amp, I can't, oh God, I can't believe I forgot that one. So the big amp, the Zuffa. So you probably heard rumblings of this. I don't know if we've ever talked about it or anything, but
We haven't talked
we
about it, but it came up at I think we were emailing about it when you were going to the Florida show last. I think it
probably,
was being
yeah.
talked about. Yeah.
So we haven't been cagey for any real reason except for we were just developing it, you know. So we really haven't talked much about it because we just really been like grinding through it.
Hmm.
So me and then another engineer, Mike Safuto, we've been working on it together for probably over a year now
Yeah.
at least.
He's
Oh
on
man,
this.
it feels
They're
like
on their
it's
third revision
yes.
of what was
Wow.
already
Okay.
great.
Yes. So the one that was at the show, we had one at the show. The new one's a much better version, and we're actually we're now everything's locked in. We're making
Okay.
one little change for like the AC board, which is just so we can ship it to Australians or people in Japan. Like we had to make one little revision just for like certification stuff. Um,
Yep.
but the amp board itself were locked. The preamp board were all locked in. The rear board were locked. We're actually getting pre-production boards in house very shortly. Um, and then we're going to pick and place those and test those. So
Okay.
just in that testing means we're going to have them. We got to send them over to like CE testing and stuff like that.
Go through legal.
So we did a lot of kind of CE stuff already with it, like getting it here. So it should be we're going in for the final, and a lot of stuff's
Okay.
just safety stuff,
Can I
Yeah,
jump
yeah,
in?
absolutely. Sure.
And for anybody that doesn't know, the Zuffa is a 2-channel Class AB
Oh, thanks.
stereo speaker.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to ask.
I've been living this damn thing for so long that to me it's like a part of my brain, Um, so yeah, we will. So we're planning at Capital Audio Fest this year. That's going to be our like production version. So when
Cool.
everybody gets to see it, it's going to be the one that's going to be going into production.
Yep.
I'd say like most of what's just slowing things up is prepping for final CE testing. Like it's just crap. It's like
Yeah.
all stuff you have to go through that's just like really, you got to make sure this thing is
Ticking the
plugged here and
boxes
this is
and
so far.
yeah.
Yeah, those things. But sound wise, we've been listening to the previous version every Saturday for the last like 2 months.
It's so bad. We have the 4499 with our Zuffa, and every Saturday we lose ourselves for hours. Like we're leaving here
Oh,
at
that's
11
awesome.
o'clock, but we're singing, we're dancing, we're just
Yes.
enjoying music and each other, and
Yes.
we get lost in it. So it's super
Yes.
cool.
That's a
So
great sign too.
we'll kick you like more info so right now it's kind of all the same info that we've been like telling people, but we don't have like an official list of everything. So once we compile that, we'll definitely get you something so
Yep.
you
That'd be
can
awesome.
see what's going on. It's just been like we just been basically
Just been
in
pounding.
pre-production hell and manufacturing hell. Like
One of
most of it's
Yeah.
just screws and stupid stuff.
One of the cool things is it will have a built-in headphone amp. The arts will
I was
do
just
this.
going to ask that. Yeah, because obviously I'm for those not familiar, and I think I mentioned to you guys, I'm moving more and more into doing both headphones and speaker amp stuff
Yeah.
now. So I've got a little near field setup here, and I've been reviewing some speaker amps and some speakers, but I'm still also, my heritage is in headphones, and it's probably still going to be it's probably going to be like a 60-40 split, headphones
Yeah.
60%, speakers 40 thereabouts, I'm guessing in the long run. So I was really keen to know, is it also going to have a headphone output? So that's cool if it
Yes.
is.
So we actually put some decent amount of time. It's a newer designed. It's like the 2.5, so it doesn't have the Sparkos. It won't have the Sparkos as the driver stage. It's like a hybrid between the A3 and the 2.5.
Okay.
The design in it's like incredibly like low distortion. Like it's a very strong design, I think. But we did it. I was gonna say we added a couple of like things with it where you can, there'll be a button on the front where you can turn off the preamp. So this is actually a Lackland thing. I'm giving you credit for this. A long time ago, you emailed me. You're like, hey, can we do this, or can you design it where you cut the preamp? And we had a couple reasons why on the A3, like the A3, we were gonna do it, but we didn't. Because we really kind of focused that more as a headphone amp. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like as versus a preamp. Like the preamp's just kind of like an added joy for it, if you want to use it. But we really market that as a headphone amp. But this guy, obviously you don't want to be sitting there with your speakers blasting plugged in, or you don't want to mess with that. So we added a preamp cutoff button. So on the front, you could either, if you want to keep your headphones on and for some reason have your speakers going and pull them off and do that, or you just hit the button on the front and it will cut it. It'll cut the preamp, and so you're just listening to headphones. But all the the tone controls, we actually developed the tone controls for the A3 from the Zuffa tech.
Okay.
So from like all the Zuffa stuff, when we did it, we took those same tone controls and shrunk them down into that. But yeah, so it will have an awesome headphone amp in it, that will work with the remote and everything, so if you just want to use it as that, it'll be very happy.
Yeah, we'll have a product with a remote, which is amazing.
Oh, yeah. We'll have a remote with a motorized pot.
Beautiful. Have you got any sense, and I'm not asking you to lock anything in so you can give me a really wide range, where roughly should people expect that to sit price-wise?
So it's going to depend on your case again, but we're looking at a base price of about $2,500. If you're going to want to get into this like O'Neill, like you have, the fancy carvings, that of course is obviously going to put an upcharge on it, but the base we're looking at is about
that's going to be the one that's like at the show. So when you look at it, that's like the big Cadillac of it. A lot of people,
the wood case. Whoops, that
way. That one. Oh, that's the he's the O'Neill. I keep forgetting you have the O'Neill, man. That's the Chris O'Neill special, man.
It's awesome, and it's got the cork. I love the cork underneath. It's really cool too. It's really, really cool.
So that matches his headphone stands. They're all cork underneath. So that's why
I didn't know. I've seen all the photos, but I've never seen underneath.
That's like, dude, that one there's like a one-off, man. I forgot you had that. I can't see that it's carved in our picture, and when you hold it up, I'm like, I forgot. Yeah, he's got the stepped one. Yeah. Every single one we get's like different. It's
really?
Great. Oh yeah,
Like he doesn't by hand, and what he does is we'll send him his dad Grip Joe. We'll make cases. We'll send them up to Chris. He puts on an album, and whatever's inspired during that album is what he produces.
Oh, that's so cool.
Different, yeah.
I love it. So it's not a case of I want to order this design. I just want a Chris O'Neill design. You get whatever you get.
Yeah, you get what you get. We get what we get. We don't even tell him what to do. He just does his thing, and
that thing's like that's like a collector's piece right there. I completely forgot he had that. And as soon as you picked it up, I was like, ooh.
I opened the box expecting one of these, and I sort of thought I was going to get these are beautiful. I love these. Yeah. And I opened it thinking and I saw this. I was whoa, that's epic.
So he's doing them for big cases too.
Yes.
And so and again, it's going to be the same thing where depending on what you want, if you want just regular oak, that's going to be probably closer to the 2000.
Yeah. We'll price it based
up with wood and designs and customizations. Then it starts
because we're also you figure this thing's roughly 17 inches. So like there's a lot of woodworking in that. Yeah. So when it's like kind of like when we're at the show, you can see like when you're like holding this thing, it's like holy crap, it's like a piece of furniture. So we do plan in the future, and a lot of people at the shows ask us this, are we going to make a smaller version, kind of in line with the Geshelli? Yes. So the way I always describe to everybody at the shows when they're asking, like, wow, this thing's like a big, this is like the showpiece. We developed all of our own, like, kind of, amp design and everything. So Sherri was basically like, take an infinite budget, design it how you want to design it.
Have fun.
Yeah, have fun with it. You and Mike have fun with this. And then once we have this like Cadillac piece that we really like, then we'll go the opposite direction. We've always went with let's start it as small as possible and go up. And it's like
Yep.
stressful doing it that way sometimes because you're like constrained from the beginning. So this
That's
was
it.
nice doing this one like just being like free. And I'm like, I want a magical Chris O'Neill case, and I want my dad to go crazy. Like I was in the woodshop today with the pre-production pieces, like telling my dad just go insane. Like when we
Yep.
make
I love it.
the first couple sets of Zufas, like just do whatever you want. Like let's just go crazy. So
Yep.
so we definitely plan on taking that amp technology and creating, something that's, in the range of the people that, can't afford a 25
Or
dollar
don't
amp or
want to
whatever,
spend
or don't want to
that.
spend it. Right, right,
And,
right.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if I have my way, we're also going to do an aluminum version because
Sure.
I'm all about the powder coating and aluminum. So I'm also pushing to be able to, kind of do that form factor as
Right.
well.
But yeah, we just want
Yeah.
to.
And I think that's really cool.
Yep. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I think it's really cool that you are probably one of the only companies, if not the only company, that allows people to have that flexibility to say either I want to keep the price down, or no, I'm happy to spend a bit more and get this something, unique
Right.
wooden case, and this is the wood that suits my house. I think that's really nice to have that flexibility.
One awesome thing was that it was like when I was watching the video, it was like you had to do the Geshelli calculus of like being able to like take that entire page and make it make sense.
Oh yeah,
So
you
like
did great at
so I
that.
was like as he
It
was
took me
saying,
about
I'm
3 or
like
4 goes.
I was like, oh my God, like he probably has like a graphing calculator, like a big, like we didn't see the whiteboard of like charts and like, like
And
we
if
were
this, then
laughing.
this.
Yes.
I spend a long part of my day on the phone with people calling in going, I don't how do I build
I'll
this?
bet. I'll
Yeah.
bet.
So you did a superb job,
I'm glad.
like bringing that into like some intelligible thing.
Yeah, we're just
We
gonna
were
start
laughing.
linking that. When people write in, I'm just gonna go talk to
Go talk to
Lachlan.
Lachlan. He'll like, he's
Watch
got.
from That's it. Watch from 8 minutes 40 till 10 minutes 20,
Yes.
and you'll have your answer.
He's got it all. But yeah, we definitely plan. We even designed, believe it or not, we designed that Zuffa in order to be modular. So we did
Okay.
design it with hopes in the future to maybe have like a class D drop in, or some other class A drop in, like maybe
Wow.
different types of drop in. So it is designed for that. There may even be some sockets, who knows? But we designed it to still be modular. And like I said, once we kind of get that together and we can get production together on it and we're very happy and we can produce it, we will immediately start having conversations about scaling it down and let's like do it like this. We don't have to have 8,000 buttons, 8,000 features. Start making it into a smaller version, things like that. So that we definitely plan on doing. We just it's
That's
time
exciting.
and the biggest
That's
thing,
it.
like I keep stressing, is just that manufacturing side of it. We have to like
Yeah.
do so many things to get like reproducibility and accuracy. So
Yeah, that's it. And scalability if the orders go up and stuff like that. It's hard, no doubt. Hey, I've got to jump in here because unfortunately I have my day job knocking at the door in 1 minute from now.
No worries.
I
Sorry,
feel
man.
bad. No, this is amazing. I wish I didn't have to drop things off because that's just opened all sorts of other conversations we could have. But we'll just have to do this again another time.
Yeah, anytime, man.
That'd be amazing. So yeah, I do have to cut it off, but thank you so much as always, Geno and Sherri.
No problem.
I'm definitely excited to see what's coming. I hope people, if they haven't already, go and check out the reviews of the A3 Pro and the J2, the mega review with every possible version under the sun. So thanks for making such great products and giving people the ability to customize. I think that's really cool that you're sharing that with all of us. And I know there's a lot of happy people out there. So thanks as always.
All right, thank you, bud.
Thank you for taking the time.
Anytime at all. Thanks both.